Welcome, Ronald. It's such an honor to have you here. Your work is so profound, and that's a small word, I would say, for the transformations that you bring to people. So this is, of course, always my favorite question is, how did you get into this work, Ronald? What brought you into this field of psychotherapy? Was it a random choice, or were you kind of guided into it?
Well, thanks for having me. And what got me into it, we all have our story, don't we? I don't know that the story is that important, but I will share a little bit about myself. I grew up in the country in a very rural area. I had a very low self-image, but I was very sensitive at the same time. And I had a mother who had a drinking problem. So I took it upon myself to try to take care of her, I guess, on some level. And I eventually got to be a therapist that was my kind of unconscious motivator, was to solve my mom's problems. That was a bit of a struggle for me when I realized, fortunately, I realized what I was doing at some point in my career. But that was a struggle then. So why was I a therapist? Once I realized that it was kind of not the healthiest reason for being one. So eventually I realized that I loved helping people, but I didn't have to rescue people. I didn't have to save people. And I think that change really was the most transformative for me, but also the most helpful to my clients, because when you're trying to rescue some other person, you can get into this prescriptive mode, and you can tend to think that you know the answers and the person you're working with doesn't, and so on and so forth. So, wow, I think my therapy got a whole lot better when I stopped trying to change other people, and I really got better at listening, and really just got better at helping people find their own answers and walk their own path. So then eventually, I started to open up to alternative solutions because I didn't think traditional therapy was all that great. And even though I thought I was pretty good at it, I knew there was a lot of issues on a subconscious level that weren't being addressed. So then I learned about PSYCH-K. PSYCH-K was started by Rob Williams, and it's really an amazing tool for working with the subconscious mind. So our subconscious mind is like this vast warehouse of information. And we don't realize it, but research is showing that about 95% of our behavior is driven by the subconscious mind. So if we want to make change in ourselves, if we want to find peace and happiness, if we want to be successful, whatever it is, we really have to make a change on a subconscious level, because we're very powerful beings. We create our own reality in so many different ways, but we're doing it mostly on a subconscious level, not a conscious level. So, I'm a big fan of Bruce Lipton, and probably a lot of your audience have heard him. He's a cell biologist, but he really understands the power of our own thoughts. And he's a great communicator. He's really good at explaining how, when we change our thoughts, we really change our reality. Even our physical health can change because we've changed our thoughts. So, wow, what a difference it made in my career. So here I am now, kind of leaving traditional therapy behind me and just using PSYCH-K and other alternative things that I have found very helpful.
Those thoughts are all, those are all the realities I've come to understand myself as a healer, and that our thoughts create our reality. When I first really grasped that thought idea that I'm creating my own reality, that we are totally responsible for everything we create in our lives, it's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. Our first reaction is, no, heck, I don't want this. Why would I want to create this? Well, you got to look at the subconscious. There's some kind of an issue going on a subconscious level that needs to be kind of focused in on and resolved for one to really understand that better.
Yeah, and I found, and you're right, Bruce Lipton is quite good. I remember his Biology of Belief book. Isn't that the one he wrote?
Right.
And that was a huge break, breaking the barriers of everything people ever thought before, and especially in psychotherapy. I mean, I've been through some of that myself, psychotherapy, just because I grew up with a dad who did that kind of drinking like your mom. And then I went down the rabbit hole for a while thinking I wouldn't do it, but I did. And so I've been sober myself 28 years, but it's powerful that I was never thinking that would happen to me, but it did, because I was self-medicating to feel better, which I
Yeah.
understand all that now. And, but when someone's in the thick of it, I mean, and um, it just came on subtly, and it was sort of like I was a quieter one, but not totally quiet. So it was enough that it was getting in my way and my family's way. And my son was very young when I stopped, and my daughter was barely remembered any of it. So I was really grateful, because I knew I didn't want to bring my family through that. But for what you're saying, how that brought you into your work and it made you change your whole approach to psychotherapy, what a beautiful thing to see. I tried to rescue my mom too. I tried to rescue everybody. That was my thinking.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the rescuer, but yet it's not our job. It's not our job.
Right. It isn't.
And it's everybody's choice to, change their life if they want to. And maybe they look, that's the codependency problem, isn't it? When people depend on the other person to help each other out, and, oh, come on, you can, you're going to do this for me, because we all depend on each other. And I've been through all those steps of waking up and awarenesses. So it's powerful. And PSYCH-K, this is an amazing work that you do, because I did a session with you, and thank you so much for that. And that session was so powerful. You totally helped me shift two beliefs that I was carrying so long and I was not able to. And now I've connected with my inner child. I've been able to forgive my mother. It's incredible. It's like, and she's forgiven me, and she's on the other side. Yes. And I love that you say that we can even change things on the other side. And, to be in our subconscious, we don't even understand how we really create that. I mean, can you go a little deeper into that? I don't know if that's worth going into a little deeper, or it's cellular level, right? You talk about PSYCH-K with cellular level. Yeah.
Yes. We're actually not our bodies. We're actually energy, right? And, but our thoughts can be so entrenched, so ingrained, they actually are like part of our body. Our body is familiar with that energy so much that it just constantly resonates at that frequency. It's like a tuning fork, right? So your body becomes like a tuning fork. It's resonating at the same frequency as your negative thoughts or your limited programming, right? Wow, isn't that interesting?
It's like a really tough thought.
Then if you go in and you change your subconscious frequency, and your body's going to change as well. Yeah. It's important for us to take a look at how deeply entrenched some of those thoughts and those feelings are. And they're very visceral to the point they create illness and disease, right, for us. Now, I'm not making any claims that PSYCH-K will cure any physical illness, but a lot of people can see that there's that connection between the two. Your thoughts and your emotions and the way what you believe about yourself is really affecting your health. If you can believe something so strongly that I'm not good enough, eventually that wears down your body and creates illness.
Yeah, that was when I became an energy conduit. I was a practical nurse, but then I became an energy conduit, and I knew nursing was great. It was great to do that work and help people. But then when I got into this work, I could see I was really working with people on different levels. Like you say, the energy, and where emotion and energy in motion is emotion. That was what I remember learning in healing school. And energy is emotion is energy in motion, which is like, if you really think about it, it's perfect to what you're saying, because we are energy. I mean, we're just a denser vibration of it, correct?
Right.
And these inner thoughts and subconscious, they really do run our show. So how do you heal those traumas? I mean, I know for me, you helped me release a limiting belief I had, and I feel the difference. It's in my body now. I feel at peace. I can feel the difference cellularly, because I had a peace that was just so different than I've had before.
Yes. I think one of the easier ways to understand it is that we have these neural pathways in our brain, right? And so they can put electrodes on your brain nowadays, and they can show you exactly how your thoughts are firing. Pretty exciting science. And so you can have a sad thought, and they can show you how a sad thought fires. You can have a happy thought, and they can show you how a happy thought fires. They can, you can have a thought about your mother or your father, and they can show you how that's firing, right? And so the positives and the negatives have their neural pathways or highways. I liken them to highways in the brain.
Sure.
So in Psych-K, we have modalities or methods that we use to create what's called neuroplasticity, the ability for your brain to actually change the neural pathways, to find a new route or a new pathway around a belief, to create more of a whole brain state about something instead of so narrow-minded or stuck, right?
Sure.
And that's what's so exciting, and it can happen very fast because the brain does have the ability to change pretty quickly. And when I first learned Psych-K, I was astounded how easy it was. And I said, where has this been? How come I've had a whole career, you know, doing traditional therapy, and I didn't know about something like this? So the good news is we do have that available to us now. And it's hard for traditional approaches and professionals to accept that something like this could be so easy and so effective. It's a change in paradigm or a change in way to look at things. And sometimes it takes the world as a whole to make that change. But I'm glad that I have an opportunity to kind of help make that change and help people realize they don't have to be stuck. They don't have to be stuck in their traumas. They don't have to be stuck in their limiting beliefs. It's just an incredible opportunity. You know, and when I started doing this, I was actually working at the VA hospital. So I was working with veterans who had severe emotional trauma and PTSD. And it was astounding to me and to my colleagues as to how much they were able to change using this modality. Wow. Just an honor really to be able to help them release the traumas and things from their past and do it in a pretty efficient way.
That's an amazing thing to be able to say, because I have a friend who's been struggling with her husband's PTSD for years, and I have to connect with her to tell her about what you do, because she's helped him so much and made him to a point where he's not like eligible for aid because he's just over the bar for things. That's what she said last time I connected with her. So it's interesting. I don't know how it's shifted now, but I have to connect with her and tell her about Psych-K, because to me, this is beyond powerful. I mean, and you say it takes what, like it could take one session, it could take 3 sessions. What does it take?
There's no guarantee in terms of how many sessions.
Right.
But a typical process in Psych-K is called a balance, because we're working with the left and right hemispheres of the brain. And very often people will experience a shift in their belief or a thought within a matter of minutes. So, but again, like I said earlier, the subconscious mind is a vast warehouse. So we change some beliefs. We still have some underlying stuff maybe there that still needs to be addressed as well. So it depends on what someone wants to accomplish, how deep they want to go. But I can tell you, compared to traditional therapy, it's night and day. So in traditional therapy, I'd spend a year or more with a person, see some change, they'd be feeling better, that's fine. But with Psych-K, seldom do I have people go beyond 3 or 6 sessions. And that, I'm honored to say, is a blessing for us as a society, because we shouldn't have to be dependent on someone else to be able to make changes in ourselves. Psych-K is very much a process about you working on yourself rather than someone telling you how you should feel or how you should think, or just getting something off your chest. It's a real honest change on the inside, on a subconscious level.
Yeah, and I think one of the best parts about Psych-K it's nice to have a witness. I mean, we kind of need to have a witness and a validation that okay, I have shifted. This is, I mean, you can feel it, but sometimes we don't believe our own stuff. You know
Yeah.
how it is. That's our thinking here in the 3D level. And so we have to, it's kind of nice to have a validation to say, yeah, you know, and we can feel it, but when you go, yeah, you did a great job. It's like, wow, I just feel so good, you know, and it's powerful. And I really, you know, recommend to people, if you're having an issue that you can't get through and it's just impossible, I would totally recommend you doing a PSYCH-K session, because it's beyond anything I've ever experienced. And I love
Very
this.
often what I say to people is just try one session, see what you think. If,
Yeah.
after that, if you think it's a good fit and you want to do some more, that's great. But a lot could be accomplished just in one session.
Yeah, yeah, I found that myself. So you must have some amazing stories of transformation of people. I love that. I love, who doesn't like a good story, right, Ron? And you know, our stories is what builds us. You know, people love hearing stories because it's the truth. I mean, you're telling us truths of what have happened to people. So do you have anything to share that you can think of that would be?
Yes, I can share some stories, and I'm gonna just share a story or two from people that have already given me verbal permission to
Oh,
do
sure,
so.
absolutely, of course.
The first person that comes to mind is a colleague that I had when I was working at the Veterans Administration. She came into my office because she was having a migraine headache,
Oh, yeah,
and so she wanted time off so that she could go to the doctor and get shots or do whatever. And I had just learned Psych-K, so I was being a little bit bold, but I said, you know, look, I just learned this new thing. I wonder if you know, this can be helpful to you. You want to give it a try? And, you know, she was so desperate, you know, she'd go, okay, yeah, whatever. So in a matter of just a few minutes, we were able to remove her migraine headache. And that was astounding to both her and I, because that was really new for me. I mean, to play around with the physical thing, first of all, and but this is what happened, and it was really fascinating. I think some of my therapy skills came out here, but you know, I said, you know, can you think back? When was the first time you ever had a migraine headache? And she was quiet for a second, and then she goes, her eyes got wide, and she looked, and she goes, oh, around the time my father tried to murder my mother.
Ooh.
And I mean, it was like both of us were, whoa, okay. So that gave us something to zero in on,
Sure.
right? So very often that's a good question to ask people, is when is the earliest time you can remember the symptoms starting, because there can be a clue in that. So when we did a Psych-K balance around that trauma, which is a very significant trauma, and that's what caused the migraine headache to go away instantly. And she was able to stay migraine free, which is incredible. And you know, this has been years have gone by. That wasn't the end, you know, of everything for her. She still had other stuff to deal with, but we were able to go deeper and continue to do some other work together. So that was great. Just an honor to be able to help someone. Now, not everybody responds that quickly, but you know, the magic pill for us was that realization she had. Oh, it goes back to that time frame.
That makes so much sense, because I had some sort of revelation like that recently about a memory that I didn't even think about. It was probably in my teens, and it was just something that really shocked me. And I won't go into the details, but it was like, I remember running away from it and just running out the door, and then I let it go. Never thought about it again, but I ended up working through it with somebody just because it came up. And
Yes.
she's like, this is your subconscious. This is way down in there. Like you're talking about, these are the subconscious things. I mean, being an energy conduit, I love working at that level. So that to me is, you know, I can go there, but I still didn't even know it was there until, you know, she said, there's something there. What is it? The first thought that comes into your mind, kind of like what you probably do.
Yep.
And boom, it was there. And I said, you're kidding. It can't be that. And it was, and things shifted again. So we don't understand exactly how deeply we bury these things, and we don't even really know. Like it could be a simple trauma, like a teacher really treating you badly or putting you at the end of the line because she just didn't like you. I mean, you know, it's just stuff like that can affect us. And And this is what PSYCH-K is so perfect for. I mean, anything like that.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because the example I used was kind of drastic, right? Not,
yeah, that was a big one.
People don't have that kind of experience, thank God. But it's all those little things that add up, right? You know,
Yeah.
that anytime your parents said something to you that made you feel bad, or your teacher, or anything that happened in your life, these are like cumulative and they build on each other. So, yeah. And you don't have to necessarily go at them each one at a time.
That's good.
There are ways to, you know, kind of lump things together and really work it and in a more efficient way, because the subconscious mind has some unique characteristics. One is that it operates much faster than the conscious mind.
Mm.
So you might have heard even Bruce Lipton mention this, but our conscious mind processes about 40 bits of information per second, which I think is pretty fast. But uh, the subconscious mind processes information at about 40 or about 40 million bits of information per second. So it's a huge difference. So I might have the number wrong there, but it's in the millions. And the key thing is you probably experienced yourself when you were in the balance. Your subconscious mind is just processing all kinds of memories and beliefs.
Yes.
So you might be saying to yourself, "I love myself," in your PSYCH-K balance, and then your subconscious mind is saying, "Oh no, you don't. You did this, you did that, you know, whatever." All of that stuff is coming. It's like percolating to the surface, and that's the magic of the process. It clears it out. You finally really let it go.
Yeah, I remember saying a few things out loud, and you're like, you don't have to talk about all of that, but you know, you just realize it's happening. And so I did. I just started to stay silent and understand that it was happening. And I was getting things like that, things I was guilty of, things I was ashamed of, things I thought I had let go of. And I was like, this is incredible. And it's gone. I mean, I just feel so good. I just feel good. And it's like, it's a very subtle feeling. It's not like, oh, wow, you know, but it's just such a freedom. It's just like you're in your body and you now own who you really are.
Yeah.
It's really interesting how it works. I find it fascinating. The psychology I used to go to, different people, never worked. I mean, it was nice to have a witness to hear me talk. It was like a testimonial that I wasn't, you know, crazy all the time, but yet, you know, it was sort of just a sounding board. It was like a sounding board. And for me, those sessions, and it was okay. And I did get some transformation, but not a ton. Most of it was all that I did, learning my own ways as being a healer, and then and you, like doing this kind of work when you go to these higher levels. And it's just amazing the difference that we make when you can, and it's so simple. I love the simplicity, and that's the beauty of all kinds of work like this, that we're going to more and more simplify our ways of being. And
you know, what's really sad is a lot of people are walking around thinking, you know, that, you know, I'm just so sick, or so, you know, unbalanced, that there's no hope for me.
right.
Things will never change for me. This is the way it's been, it's the way it's always going to be. As long as you hold on to that thought, that's just the way it's going to be for you. That's true. But it doesn't have to be that way. You know, that's where you have to start. You have to start at changing that belief and look at what's causing it. What's got you in there in the first place.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. It's a hard one for people who have no sense of this kind of energy work, or, you know, and I feel, you know, like people like us that talk about these things are bringing it out to other people, and they may just approach that person and say, you know what, you don't have any other choices left. Why don't you try this? Why don't you go there? Because this is what it brings you to. It brings you to your
Yes.
knees. It really
Yes.
does. It brings you
Yes.
to, and it's time to, if you're willing, if you really want to change. Now, some people don't want to change, and that's an interesting point in itself.
Let me comment on that. So, there'll be people that'll say to you, I really want to change, right?
Yeah.
And on a conscious level, they do. The challenge is there is a part of them possibly on a subconscious level that doesn't want to change, right? And we oftentimes refer to that as secondary gain. So the art in this work is to help figure out what that secondary gain is. What's the motivation on a subconscious level?
Yeah.
And there's no judgment in it. So
right. No.
you know, people may feel insulted, you know, you're telling me that, you know, this part of me doesn't want to change. No, it's subconscious. You don't have control over it.
Mm.
So what might that be? What might that subconscious driver be as to why you don't want to change? And there could be any variety of reasons why. Like, if I got healthy, then I'd have to be responsible. I've heard people say that.
Absolutely
Okay, so what does responsibility mean to you in the first place?
right.
Oh, that maybe goes back to something about what your father wanted you to do, or your mother thought you should do, or who you should be, and so on, or that you should rescue everybody in the world, or whatever. There can be some very distorted ideas around the concept of responsibility, let's say, right?
Sure.
But everybody has their own thing, right? So what is it that might be keeping you from moving forward? Now, a lot of people will come to me and say, I know there's something stopping me. I just don't know what it is. And that's exciting. So they know that there's something on a subconscious level that's keeping them from making that change. So it's exciting. Okay, you're ready. So let's take a look. Let's see if we can figure that out. And usually it doesn't take that long to get at what's on the subconscious level. But the other caveat is there could be layers of it. It's not maybe just one thing. It could be a series of layers of things that kind of gotten in the way.
But can you group those layers together as well when you're doing a session, or does that have to take a little more time when you get to those sections?
The answer to both of those questions is yes.
Oh, good.
It can be either. So what I find is that we just make sure we haven't left any stone unturned.
Okay.
So you might have a profound experience in a balance in a session. We say, okay, is it worth looking at this from a different angle? Is there something else that might be there that we want to look at? And so that can be helpful.
Yes. That makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, these are really great. This is great information, because I remember working with people, even as an energy conduit, that, you know, people didn't want to get better because they would lose their medical coverage, or they would lose their extra benefits they had. I mean, these are crazy things that came up for people. And I'm thinking,
in the VA, that was an issue.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting that you would lose that, or you would lose someone's attention? You would lose this attention that people
That's correct. That is a common one.
I know. And it's like, really, you'd rather be sickly and miserable and keep this. And so this is free will. You do have a choice.
It's the only way they could get love and attention. Now, if you go back in that person's time frame, you'll see that probably that was a pattern that got developed at an early age. You know, Bruce Lipton will say that the first 7 years of our lives are the most formative, because we're very much in a theta state. We're really taking things in, and it's hard for us to know the difference between ourselves and someone else. So we think that whatever's coming at us must be true. So what's happening a lot of times with younger kids is that their parents are very busy, or they're just wrapped up in their own drama, that they're ignoring the kids. And the only way the kids get attention is by being sick or acting out, right? So you know, the child who's acting out gets blamed, though they're a problem child. Well, they're just looking for a way to get the attention that they so desperately need.
Yeah, negative attention is better than no attention.
Right.
Wow, interesting. I know. I love it's this is so good to hear. I think we all need to hear this kind of thing, because we're all working right now with this stillness. I mean, we've been given this gift. I think it's such a gift right now. What do you see as a message for the people right now? Why is this coming to us? What's going on? Do you have any ideas? What's your thinking?
Yeah, we're not victims. We've got to reclaim our own power. And
so true.
That we can do. We're amazing beings. We just kind of lost our power along the way. You know,
it's giving
we tend to have very limited views of who we are and what we can have in life and what our life can be like. And I can just tell you from my own, just as another story, is my own.
Yeah, love it.
You know, in the area of money, just to narrow it down to something, here I was, a therapist, and I just assumed that I was limited by a salary, right? and that I had to find ways to get a raise or, you know, that kind of thing. So I went from being a straight therapist to being a program manager, that kind of thing, and being a director eventually. And that was my way of making more money. But the higher I went in the ranks, the more miserable I got, because I really just liked doing therapy. But now I had to hire and fire people, and I had to do all those things. So that was a problem. So that was my mindset. But as I worked on myself through Psych-K and other things, I changed the way I looked at the world. I started to open up to the possibility that maybe things didn't have to be this way. So what did I do? I started working in a private practice. But I started out, I was still working at the VA, but I started private practice. But I started out working in somebody else's practice. See? My mind said, that's the way I have to do it. I've never done this before. I never had my own practice, so I got to work for somebody else. So they'd bill insurance. They get most of the money. I get a small amount, right? So at first it was like, okay, at least I'm making some extra money. But then I just kept working my limited thoughts. So what am I afraid of in terms of starting my own practice? So I had to work through that fear, right? So I worked through that fear, then I start my own practice. And what am I afraid of? Well, I'm afraid of billing insurance. I don't know how to do that, whatever. Well, my wife volunteered. So, but anyway, little by little, I went from leaving, you know, a secure job, as they say, right? Salary, making a hell of a lot more money.
Wow. Isn't that
Simply because I made that shift. And I went, you know, I moved away from insurance. Why? Because insurance companies don't technically pay for this kind of work. It's alternative.
Which is lucky.
Secondly, they weren't doing it online, which now I do all my work online. And I got beyond that fear that people wouldn't pay me for my worth. And what was my issue? What am I really worth? So as I changed my sense of self and my in terms around wealth and value, I started to make a lot more money. And I didn't essentially have to do much more than change that view of myself, those limiting beliefs that I had inside myself. And I'm the first person to admit that that is quite an amazing thing. And it still amazes me that life around you can change just because you changed your own beliefs. Bruce Lipton says something else that's very interesting. He said, if you want to know what your issues are, just look at the life around you. Because your life is reflecting back to you what it is that you really believe and what your issues are. Right? And it's so hard for ego to accept that. No, it's really that nasty mother that I had, or it's really that nasty boss that I had, right? Oh, but there's something a little bit deeper there too. And again, there's no judgment. It's just about looking at what kind of program is going on in there, what kind of beliefs do we have, and making those changes. And the exciting news is we can make those changes. You know, if a person's really sincere and they want to change those things, there are actually quite a few tools out there, I believe, that are very effective. And Psych-K is not the only one.
Right.
So, but, you know, that's what I practice. I'm familiar with it. But if people are drawn to other practices, that's fine too. The thing is, don't give up on yourself. Be open to the idea that you really can make this transition. I also use Theta Healing, and I have a lot of respect for Theta Healing. You know, people can release a lot of beliefs very quickly, very efficiently using Theta Healing. And so I combine Theta Healing with Psych-K and also the guidance I get in there to help people make that transition. So this is an interesting point. I've had this experience a number of times where people are in what we call a balance in Psych-K. And they're working with a statement like, you know, the world's a safe place, let's say. It's one that comes up a lot in Psych-K. The world's a safe place, because so many people come into this world feeling like it's not a safe place. And they'll say to me, well, the world isn't a safe place. You know, you can go out and step out, you know, into the street and get run over. You know, is that true or false? Yes, it's true. But I say this, which do you want? Do you want to live the rest of your life in fear or feeling like the world's a safe place?
Yeah.
Which would you rather? Oh, I'd rather feel like it's a safe place. Okay, great. Then on a subconscious level, if you're feeling like the world's a safe place, it doesn't mean you abandon everything. You're still practical. You know, you wait till the light changes, or you look both ways before you cross the street. But you don't have that panic and that fear that actually could be bringing things to you that are negative, right?
It does, yes. I think fear definitely attracts. So, you know, and I don't want to make people get fearful of that thought, but, you know, it's all about just, all right, if I'm fearful, why am I fearful? All right, I'm okay. I'm safe right now. So, you know, go into your heart, even touch your heart area if you have to, just to be able to, you know, connect to that and know that you're okay. I mean, that's a powerful statement.
And use another example too. You'll see, let's say, a person who's just first learning, a child who's just learning how to ride a bicycle. If you had two children, one who just kind of trusts everything and another who's afraid all the time, who do you think is going to do a better job of riding that bicycle?
The one who's not afraid, of course.
That's right. They're going to really be in centered,
Determined,
right?
yeah.
Not off balance. And you see that over and over again in life. So that's why what we believe on a subconscious level is so important.
Wow.
Because do you want to come from a stable, grounded place or an unstable, ungrounded place?
Doing this kind of work with Ron, I mean, we do need people to help us sometimes. We can't get out of our own way, you know? And so it's powerful when these kind of amazing tools come up. So, and it's simple. So I just love this method. It's powerful. Really, really.